Hey everyone, Todd Snyder and Levi Pearson. We're coming to you live on Target Tuesday. And it's not any ordinary Target Tuesday. We're here with Tim Gillingham, so it's a special edition. So we welcome Tim to this live feed. So we're gonna tease out a little bit of some questions, a little bit, in an upcoming great video we have. But if you're new to our live stream event like this, Bowtech Live, make sure you text WATCH to 313131, and you'll get notifications when we're going to go live. We have some cool stuff coming up that Levi's going to tell us about.
Yeah, also guys, in a little bit, probably this week, we have two of our staffers that are planning on a live antelope hunt.
Yep.
And I believe they were planning spot and stock, so not your traditional blind. So that should be pretty interesting, so definitely tune in for that.
Either tomorrow or the following day, depending on what they get into, is going to be some pretty neat stuff. That hopefully they can come live. So
yeah, and if you also want to watch that, make sure that you text WATCH to 313131, and you can follow along on their journey. So hopefully they'll be successful in that one.
Right. Well, we're going to be doing some really cool giveaways throughout our live event today, but we want to start it out and give something away right off the top. So get in there and make a comment of where you're coming from, because we want to see, you know, hopefully we've got some people around the world. This is a big event with Tim Gillingham. But yeah, give us throw up some locations for us, some likes, some hearts on there. Hey, it's, you know, Tim Gillingham. It's not every day you get to talk live with Tim here. So so we'll get hopefully here shortly we'll get a winner in there. So again, make sure you're and the big piece of this is share this event, because again it's Tim Gillingham. It's the infamous, the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Gillingham. So so we're excited here. So let's talk about a little bit why we're looking at some questions here, or waiting for a winner. So let's talk about a little bit of questions. You know, Tim, I started out working with you in Vegas. Again, thanks for being here with us. I know you're probably in the middle of your workday out there. So again, thank you for joining us.
Okay. Nice to have you guys to have me on, and it's always good to work with good people.
Well, you as well. You know, you and I and Levi, we talk a lot. Usually it's through the business type stuff, but it's a pretty rare occasion we get to hear and talk about some cool stuff like this. So you and I really started out this Tim Gillingham project back in Vegas. That was the really big, the first gateway to this. Tell us about, and the video goes into this quite a bit, but what were your thoughts when we approached you about doing this event?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's quite humbling, I guess, to be approached on something like this. I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't take myself too seriously. Archery to me has so much potential, and I've been real fortunate to been in the industry. It's been a passion of mine, and I just kind of worked that passion into a job, and it just all kind of come together, quite nicely. So, there's always a saying, find what you really love to do and find a way to make a living at it. And I guess I'm just kind of an example of that. So,
all right. You have any questions you want to throw at him off the top of your head? I've got a bunch of them, but I want to take away. Hopefully, we get some more. I think they're just rolling in here now too. You've really grown this sport tremendously. From kind of where it started back. I lived in Ohio, and I think it was 2004 I moved out here, and I've seen a lot of growth in the sport overall. What can archers do? And we talk about a lot, what you've done, but what can archers do? Other archers, even amateurs and pros, what can they do to help grow this sport of archery across the board? Whatever, internationally, 3D. Dots, things like that.
Well, I think the very best thing that shooters can do is get involved in their local clubs. Every club in the country is basically run by 5 or 6 guys. So, get involved. Help them guys recondition their field range. Help them run and organize. A lot of times the older guys just kind of get relegated into the position of running the clubs, and they're sometimes aren't up to speed with the new organizations, and they're just doing it because nobody else will do it. So I'd encourage people to get involved with their local clubs. I think we really need to, as an industry, get everybody kind of on the same page. I think ASA archery for 3D is probably the most popular format out there for due reason, and it's very inclusive to all different people from all walks of life, and it's important to get sanctioned events held in your local clubs, get people interested in these national organizations and in cohesion with them. So whether it's USA Archery, whether it's 3D, urge archers to try all kinds of archery. Don't just relegate yourself to being a 3D archer or an indoor archer or a feet archer. Try it all. Learn it all and become good at all of it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, really quick, we have our first winner. We're going to do a promo code here for some Bowtech archery gear. And forgive me if I do not say your name right, but I believe it's Zeke. So Zeke Hunt from Virginia. You're our first winner of a promo code to Bowtech archery gear. We got some great stuff on there, some great clothing, some shirts, some sweatshirts, hats. So direct message us. We'll get you that promo code. Be able to hook you up there too. So that's pretty cool. We got a lot of people rolling in from all over the country here. So I got a couple other questions here. What outside of target archery, what kind of hunting plans do you have coming up? You're a big hunter too. I've seen a lot from you on that end.
Yeah, I mean, I try to hunt every year. I really enjoy it. I don't ever get to do enough, and part of it is I try 100+ days a year, so it's important for me to spend some time with my family. But, I try to do a couple good trips every year and just fit around the house. So I got an elk, deer, and antelope tag in Montana, and then in October up to Kodiak Island. We'll hunt deer here on the Wasatch Front. That's kind of my mainstay. It's there's big deer, but you got to work hard at them, and real gratifying. Yeah, I may make a little trip over to Nebraska for some mule deer. It's kind of got in my blood.
Yeah, I hear that about working hard.
Unless Bowtech is willing to, flip the bill for a stone sheep hunt, I could be.
Yeah, Levi and I might have to go with you on that one.
Supervisor, of course.
I'm just looking for some. We got a few questions rolling in here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead. I'm excited to show this. Do you have any questions before we do this?
Not really. He kind of shut me down with the whole gingerbread house comment earlier.
We got the gingerbread duo here doing the interview. So
Gillingham's taking shots at us.
Story of our life. Story of our life. But we want to share this. I'm proud to show this. So this is the big piece.
Absolutely.
Of interview. So. I can't delay it anymore. So without further ado, let's show you the Tim Gillingham Project.
Tim Gillingham is passionate. If there's one thing you need to know about Tim, is his passion for archery cannot be understated.
There's just not two people like Tim. He analyzes everything. He's got to know why it works, why it doesn't work.
He wants to teach you how to do it so you can pass that on, and kind of just branch that out to others as well.
He micro-tunes every tiny part of archery, which nobody ever did before, really.
So growing up, I grew up pretty poor, and it always was a hit on my self-esteem as a child, and my dad was, a preacher, really had aspirations of becoming a preacher, and not the most lucrative profession in a small town of Farson, Wyoming of a couple hundred people. But I always kind of gravitated to my own thing. I never really clicked with team sports because it was real political. And as a kid growing up in high school, growing up pretty poor, I just had a real big hit to my self-esteem, I think, you know, and kids picking on you, I just didn't really, you know, everybody took it different. My brother, in one hand, started fighting, and I, on the other hand, pretty much kept to myself and really delved into archery. And I really loved it because I got out of it what I put into it. I bought my first bow from, you know, one of our preachers. It was an old beat up, you know, everybody's had a bear whitetail, right? I had 3 of them. So I worked with my dad a lot. I really credit my father for instilling a work ethic in me. I mean, and it was kind of ironic. My mother always jokes that my dad was lazy till he, you know, was in his 40s, but I never saw my father that way. I always saw my father as just, you know, a hard-working guy. He had 6 kids to take care of, you know, so he, you know, after he started preaching, he was a carpenter. So, you know, we worked with him all the time. I worked with him all summer. I worked with him after school, and so he imparted a lot of those skills, but it really was the work ethic. And I think that competitive nature that I had always kind of, the competitive nature just, it transpires into everything. You know, if I had a job in high school cleaning, you know, cooking sheets at the baking, you know, the bakery. I mean, it was a horrible job. But I also did it to the best of my ability because I just think that's an innate personality that I have, that perseverance. I mean, some people are talented, and I don't know that I necessarily fit into that category, but I do think I work harder than everybody else. So I love it, and I have to work harder than everybody else. If I have an innate ability, it's probably problem solving. I'm really good at looking at something and understanding how to make it better, you know, or fix it. So.
Tim Gillingham, I mean, he's so important to this industry, and to me, he's been invaluable, like just knowledge, you know, and really, I think taking people and how they treat the sport and how they look at the sport differently.
I'm getting a left tear out of a stiff arrow. He spent hundreds of hours trying to figure out, you know, why this was it and why that, you know, why that was happening. And finally, one day he figured out it was the load on the cable guard at full draw. And that's what led to him, you know, taking his aluminum cable rods and bending them all sorts of ways, and just learning that, and just from him spending the time tinkering around, finding it, that I think that's been a huge step in the industry standpoint, because, you know, you look at a lot of bows now, a lot of them have adjustable cable guards for, you know, tuning capabilities and that, and a lot of that, I think, started with Tim.
But if you know Tim and you are receptive to constructive criticism, he is the best person you want to work with, because if you scrape off the delivery of the message and you get to the content, there is something there for you to benefit from. And I don't care if you're an archer, if you're a designer, you're owner of a company, or you're his friend, there is something that he's always trying to help you. It's that passion.
The industry respects Tim so much. I mean, people ask him constantly, or in his ear, how you do this, how you build arrows, how you tune bows. And
he's not an engineer, but he thinks like an engineer, and he's the guy that will test and test and test, but he knows this isn't working and I got to figure out why.
He looks at it from an organizational standpoint, from a design standpoint, from a product standpoint, from a technical standpoint. That's his passion. And he cannot wait to share all his knowledge with people, and it doesn't matter who you are, and that's what makes him special.
So through Tim's influence in the archery industry, through just the design of bows, technology, accessories he designs, all the way to the shooting organizations, influential in adding additional classes and things of that nature, he's a wealth of knowledge, and he brings that to the R&D department, helps us design better bows, better products, greater technology, and through that, we're going to really revolutionize the archery industry as we move forward.
I learned through the School of Hard Knocks. Nobody taught me. I really never got taught archery. I grew up doing it myself. My mind works like there's always a better way. You know, I had to learn sight leveling the right way. The only information that was available to me in sight leveling was some videos that were on the market. Well, I did it the way this guy was telling me, but then when I get to a tournament, it was obvious real quick that it wasn't working for me. So I had to figure out what's broken in that scenario. But it took me, I'm not kidding you, it took me probably 10 years of shooting competitive archery before I really figured it out. I really knew exactly what I was doing. So when I teach people, I'm trying to teach people what they're doing rather than how to do it. Because when you teach people what they're doing, then they can apply that to every scenario. And I think I really have the ability to teach somebody in layman's terms so they actually understand it.
Tim has had some of the craziest looking contraptions, you know, and been the laughing stock of the whole tournament world at times because of it, but he'll show up. I mean, I've literally seen him show up with stabilizers sticking off every side of his bow. You know, he's got like magnifying glasses that look like go-go gadget and stuff like dangling in front. I mean, it's like, what are you doing, man? And he's like, it's awesome, you know, and then the next day he's breaking it and throwing it in the woods, you know.
His favorite thing is with arrow setups, people try to, you know, tell him one way, and then he will just sit there and argue and, you know, tooth and nail till he can prove that he's right. And someone will go out and, you know, they'll do it their way and they won't cut their arrows down like he told them to, and then they'll go out and shoot for 3 months. And they'll, you know, not shooting great scores, and they come back and finally listen to Tim, and he just, you know, laughs, and you'll never hear the end of it.
So I've literally seen so many like inventions, but what it is him just trying to be better. It's like, that's what Tim's thing is. It's like always trying to find that thing is going to push him over, you know. So yeah, he's had some pretty epic failures at inventions, and some of them have stuck, you know, but he's always trying.
One of the first guys that'll talk to the, you know, the up-and-comers and the newbies and all that, and it doesn't matter who you are, he talks to you.
You know, he's really done so much for this sport. Like, I'm a prime example. He's helped me so much throughout my archery career, and I don't think I'd be shooting at the level I was today without Tim.
Just not two people like Tim. He analyzes everything. He's got to know why it works, why it doesn't work, the reasons for it. And I think if there were more manufacturers out there that listened to Tim, he could tell them how to build a better bow.
He's had a huge impact just with his perfectionist attitude and his relentless, like, strive to be perfect, you know, knowing he could never obtain that. Nobody could, but I mean, his impact on archery has been huge.
Overall, the sport of archery is better from Tim, just from the people he's taught, the people he's mentored and coached. And I just see that going forward as Tim's niche. He's an educator. He's not afraid to share his information. And the same thing goes in products. I just see the sport overall getting bigger and bigger, and Tim's going to be the guy. They're going to say, you know, what got archery here, and they're going to say Tim Gillingham.
Well, I think what I've given to archery really is myself. You know, I get a comment from a lot of shooters that I'm one of the only pros that will actually talk to them, you know, they really appreciate that. And I guess I don't take myself too serious. I don't take archery too seriously. I think in my mind, it could be so much bigger. You know, I mean, I just really believe that the sport of archery could be gigantic.
That video, are we back?
Yeah, we are.
So that video right there, I think what you just said as far as getting more into your mind as far as where you're envisioning where archery could be. You know, a lot of us that are in it on a day-to-day basis, we think of it as, you know, this is kind of the whole of it, but just the way your mind thinks, you see it as so much more, and that's what I respect about you so much, is your drive. You want to take it more. So I think they did a fantastic job putting that together. Guys, just reminding you, if you have questions for Tim, definitely comment so we can get them answered. But
get him in.
Yeah, I think
he's here, ready to answer them. He'll answer anything. I don't know if that's. I don't know if he'll answer anything, but
might have to push that envelope.
Your good friend Peter Lyons says hello. By the way.
Hey Peter, I'll see you in a few.
Pro Series, right?
Right.
Pro Series, Wales.
Yep.
You know, I was fortunate enough to be there at Vegas when we were filming that. We interviewed you separately. Levi Morgan and Dave Hauser together. We had a great time interviewing those guys. They didn't hesitate when we asked them, come tell us about Tim Gillingham. They were like, oh yeah, we can tell you about Tim Gillingham. We were talking about some of the crazy stuff you've done. You shared something while we were watching the video there about, Levi was talking about all those crazy stabilizers you had going every direction. Tell us the story behind that as far as what happened. You told us something pretty cool about that.
I guess Well, I really didn't have a method to my madness. You know, for all these years, you know, I've shot and done quite well. I never could quite get a bow to hold well, and I was just always trying different things. And it wasn't until actually, you know, Greg Pulver took me a little bit on Stinger that I really didn't have much of an understanding of stabilization and how it is unbelievably beneficial to your game. And it's probably one of the best things that I've learned, you know, is how to use that V-Stinger stabilizer system to make me hold better and really slow that motion down. Really key to my game now. I was just making stuff work, but just looking, you know, and looking, like Levi said, I was looking and trying, you know, and always trying different things. Never could quite come up with that, you know, that perfect setup. But you know, even now, I still, you know, I'll still play with different link stabilizers, just trying to get a understanding of it so that I can, you know, when somebody asks me, I can kind of get them started in the right direction.
Well, I think you said after Levi said that in the video as you're watching it that you won with that setup he was making fun of you about.
Hey, sometimes you just got to go with the girl that brought you to dance, you know, and I won the ASA class. You know, the final shot on that was pretty unique. I went into the shoot-off with a 3-point lead, I think it was, and both Dan McCarthy and Levi passed me. I choked, you know, and so we're down to the final arrow, and they put us on this baseball diamond, right? So we're at home plate, and the target second base, and I'm thinking, oh, that's great. Levi Morgan used to play semi-professional baseball.
He's got the yardage.
And McCarthy, he remembers everything he ever looked at. You know, the guy's got a photographic memory, so I'm thinking I'm screwed here. And somebody told me they gave me their concept of how far it was to second base, and I got to looking at it, I'm like, there is no way. And so I just judged it and shot it, and I donuted to 14, and Levi said when I turned around and said, get you some of that. I don't remember.
I love it. I love it. Well, I've got a question from you, and Leo Squires, also, you're a winner of our next promo code, so you have a great question here, so we're going to give you a promo code. So make sure you send us a direct message, and we'll throw up that promo code to you. So Leo Squires, what's your favorite, and this is for Tim, what's your favorite aspect of engineering on the Fanatic 3? So you know, you've been really instrumental in this Fanatic 3. Tell us what's your favorite aspect of being part of that.
I think that, you know, the new grip that's on it is really instrumental in making that bow shoot better than the than the Fanatic 2.0. A nice flat grip really controls the load transfer, and I do really like the cam systems and what we're doing with the adjustability in the mod. You know, that's really I think one of the big things is allowing people to tweak that bow to the way they want it, you know, so, and filling in all the gaps. You know, all the different stop options are phenomenal. You know, you really tweak holding weight and your, you know, the feel that you want at full draw.
Right. Well, we've got another great question for you from Brent Ruben. Ruben, we're also going to give you a promo code because this is another really good question. So another promo code for Bowtech archery gear. Again, shoot us a direct message and we'll hook you up with that. So this is an arrow question, Tim. Where do you start when dissecting arrow flight issues?
Well, I mean, it goes no further than paper tuning. Paper tuning is the key, okay? Paper tuning gives you a cause and effect, okay? I do this, this is what I get. The arrow always will steer opposite of paper tear, and it is even more evident when you're dealing with broadheads. If you've got a high tear, you're going to get a low broadhead impact, and it's just lesser degree with a field point. So what I'm looking for is how does this thing shoot through paper? I typically do it about 5 yards because that's the distance the tear is usually about at its worst. And really, it is the only way I tune a bow. And all this group tuning and all this other garbage doesn't really do anything. Because if I have clearance, which I powder tune, I paper tune each individual arrow, and then I bare shaft tune or broadhead tune if I want to. It's not really a necessity to have your bare shaft and fletch shaft together. And a lot of times, the fletch shaft and the bare shaft will tune completely different. So it's also a great way to take a beginner, you know, that can't necessarily hold the bow the same. And if he can't shoot the same arrow twice through paper, you make them stand in front of paper and shoot through paper until they can do that. And they start realizing, hey, when I put my hand in the grip this way, this. When I put my hand in the grip that way, I get this. And so they get a cause and effect. And so primarily, I'm 100% a paper tuning guy. If it goes through paper cleanly, if it's not touched or if you've got clearance on the way out, it's going to group if you have enough fletching and point weight in it.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a great, we're getting a lot of questions coming, a lot of comments coming in. So we're going to grab another winner off of our Facebook page, off the live stream. Let's give it to Frank Welsh, because he made a great comment about you, Tim, in general, and my thoughts as well. Frank says, Tim is a great guy that always replies to every question that you may have. Keep rocking it, Tim. So, Frank, you're another winner of our promo code. Shoot us a direct message, and we will hook you up as well. So I think that tells your story pretty well, I mean, as far as helping everyone.
Yeah, Frank's a good guy, man. He's been on our shooting staff for years. Does a lot of, he always takes great pictures, harvest animals, and, he's a good guy.
Well, then that brings up a good question that I have for you. So we see, we saw it in the video a lot, and Levi and I see it quite a bit. I see it firsthand when I go to the events. Is you're always getting engaged with those questions, and Bob Jacobson talked about that. Levi and all the guys talked about how you get asked those questions. But when we get the same thing when we're at the events. But how do you balance that with your shooting there? I mean, you're a great guy, and I notice you're always in a good mood with those guys. You're always willing to, the guys and gals, and you're always willing to answer those questions. But I know there's a little bit of balance there. How do you keep all that in balance?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's just a love of the game. I was at IBO World this weekend, and I spent virtually every night on the practice range till dark. So a lot of times helping, other people, with some of their problems. But I don't know. I try to, the older I get, I try to be prepared before I get there, number one. There are times when I get a little stressed out and I'm not ready, and I'm sure people can tell. But I've always tried to help people and make sure they understand what I'm teaching them. And I used to get a lot of flack here at Gold Tip when I first started here because I spend so much time on the phone with an individual. But the problem is that if you don't teach a person completely, if you don't really, give them 100% of the information, when they disseminate it down range to their friends or to their contacts, they're not going to be teaching it right, either. And I think that's really the success story of Gold Tip here is our shooting staff and working with them and teaching them, and then now they become the ambassadors of the company, and I think it works quite well. And I think this importance of having a very good shooting staff, it's the importance of our shooting staff, being involved and being people that are key and influential in their community.
Absolutely.
So, it takes a lot of time, but it's like I said, it's not work when it's passion. And it's trying to really help somebody.
Real quick, those of you that have won those promo codes, shoot us an email to info@bowtecharchery.com, and that way you're able to get those promo codes. So it'll make it a lot easier for you to get through and get us your information too. So this is a great question, Tim, because I suffer from this as well. This is from Matt Moore. So Matt, because I like your question so much, because I'm doing the same thing, we're going to give you our last promo code of the day today. So shoot us that email at info@bowtecharchery.com, and we'll hook you up with that. So Matt's question: how do you get rid of a sinking sight pin? I'm sure you've heard this one 100 times too.
Well, yeah, and that's something that I found with this binary cam system. It's really leverage, right? So you can use stabilization to a certain degree, but really, and Jesse Broadwater, brought this up, and we've been talking a lot. We talk a lot, in tournaments about, one of the top topics that he come up with, several years ago was torque tuning, and so I delved into that and discovered this perfect spot for the left and right, torque tuning. It had something to do with your sight position, your rest position. Well, I asked him, well, if that's the case, wouldn't it be logical that there's a vertical one too, and it's probably closest to the grip? And he said, yes, but it doesn't matter if you can't hold the pin still. So what he does and what I do is simply move the loop up the string until you get to that point where the pin stops sinking. Typically with the Botex that I found is I start with the bottom of my arrow shaft at the top of the burger hole. Now, other companies have solved that by dropping the grip slightly lower, but everybody's a little different. So, you know, the solution to the problem is simple leverage, okay? So it can be draw length. You know, draw length's too long and you don't have enough holding weight and everything's just pulling on your front arm. It's gonna make that sight. You know, you need maybe more back weight on your stabilizer. But I think the biggest fix to that, a lot of times, is simply moving the loop up the string. I'm actually running off my Fanatics a couple turns off the top limb. In the past, and other bows got, you know, we've seen that help too. You know, but I don't know if I see a huge difference in that. But that's where I'm running them right now. Dave Gore kind of got me to try that.
Dave Gore, good old Dave Gore. We know him well.
Oh yeah.
Here's a.
Shooters will just start with their bottom of the arrow about the top of the burger hole and then move the rest up to it. I think if you got a sinking sight, that's going to help a lot.
Wow, I need to write that down. I didn't bring a pen. I definitely need to try that when we're done here. Here's a good question from Erik Gilbert. This is from our website. He said, you are a fan, Tim, you're a fan of the 4 Fletch Arrow. Do you run that when you're hunting as well?
Well, hunting was where I learned it. I was doing some testing one day with a local company, and we were trying to figure out, you know, what makes a fixed blade a good thing. You know, do any of them actually do it? Everybody claims they do, right? And I was really struggling, you know, with a fixed blade setup. I was going hunting in Idaho. You're required to use fixed blades. And I had 4-inch hard helical 3 flex, and I could not. I always get my broadheads, didn't matter what it was, planing off and hitting in the dirt. And I built some arrows up for ESPN Great Outdoor Games. They were some 22 series, and they had 4 Fletch 2.5-inch vein techs on them. And I said, well, I'm just going to try them. So I tried them, and it was like instantaneous. I went to a 6-inch group with whatever at 100 yards with whatever I put, which was phenomenal. It was a big difference. So in my mind, it's either the veins or the arrows. So I reflect my hunting arrows up, 6 of them with a 4 Fletch 2.5, and then Jesse Moorhead at the time had been talking about 6 Fletch. So I said, well, I'm going to try this now too. So I did some 2.3 super spines and a 6 Fletch, and both of those setups were way better than a 3-inch 4 Fletch hard helical. It just seemed to take away all the planing and, you know, provided really good control. And ever since then, you know, in my mind, if it works better with a fixed blade, it's going to work incrementally better with everything. And then I just adjust my fletching size of what I'm doing. So I'm able to use a smaller, this is amazing, that little 2.5-inch vein was, you know, so much better than a big 4-inch, you know, 3 Fletch helical. And I think a lot of this stuff gets overlooked simply because most of the deer hunting in the country is done inside of 30 or 40 yards. And so just about anything will work, but you really start seeing those planing effects when you get out further. So I run it for everything now. Mm-hmm. It gives me clearance. Gold Tip actually has a factory fletching machine now that we can factory 4 Fletch. I have a new Valkyrie shaft this year, and I think it's going to be I would encourage people to try it because I really believe if the average bow hunter tries 4, they're going to see a tremendous difference. You know, when I first bow hunting, we were 4 fletching, but we were all hand fletching everything. And then more industries come in with their factory you know, fletchers, and they were all 3 Fletch. And I think that's really the only reason everything's been 3 Fletch for so many years.
Got another stabilizer question for you. This is a good one from Amy Bays. 10-degree offset or straight on a stabilizer?
Well, I've tried both. I think it's a simple leverage issue. The down angle does settle maybe a little bit faster, or if you have a stabilizer that points off to the left or right at full draw, you can actually angle that 10-degree down and put it right out in front of the bow. So it's handy for that. I've actually taken that a little bit further and made that angle a lot sharper, and it was an extreme negative. It kind of created a, you know, like a a teeter-totter effect where it would pivot really fast in the middle. So the further apart you put those two weights on a stiff bar, what we call a moment arm, the more stabilizing effect it's going to have. It's just a balancing act as to, how much mass weight can you handle, and then what style of shot do you shoot. If you're an aggressive person that pulls hard into the wall, you're most likely going to need more resistance out front. So, stabilization is about resistance. If you're a guy that's real static, say like Chance Bobeth, and you don't move around a lot, your ratio is usually going to be more back weight than you have in the front. I run about a 1 to 2 ratio because I pull hard and I like a lot of mass weight to slow me down. So
let's talk about the video. Do you have any questions on his story behind him? I know this was really the first time I think you've got to see it in its entirety.
Well, I think one of those things I think you touched on is, and we were actually just talking about that in the pro shop yesterday, is you have individuals that they just have that natural raw talent, and then it's so sad because so often you see those guys just kind of throw it away because they have that advantage already. But I've always seen you as a hard worker, and I think that's awesome where you kind of came from is you were self-taught. You get out there, you sling arrows, even when you're talking about 3 Fletch, 4 Fletch, 6 Fletch, you try it, compare the two, and as time goes on, it allows you to really troubleshoot and get to a point where, you may not have that naturally born talent, but because you're the hardest worker out there, you're competing with the best. So I think that's what really I want everybody to see for sure. And I think that video did a fantastic job. And also the individuals that are willing to come forward and speak, as far as the impact that you've had. When you have individuals like Levi and Hauser, come forward and say, hey, this guy influenced me and helped me set up on the successful path that they've had.
We actually had probably at least 10 more people in line that wanted to tell a story about you. We had to. And some of them, I don't know if they wanted to be, you wanted to be told. No, it was all good stuff. So that just shows how many people, wanted to come and tell about how you affected them as well. So you hit on this a little bit in the video, kind of talking about, and I spoke on a little bit in the video, is where I see you going in archery. Where do you see yourself in 15 years?
Well, old punchers never die, right? I don't know. I'm working on. I really wanted to launch a website full of technical training videos this fall. I'm going to start working on that.
Because you have so much free time.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I just want to create a resource for people to go and get education, but also give them a resource to get those products that I'm using in that video so that they don't have to, try to find it on their own. And, so much of this stuff is specialized. When I had to show you a picture of my Buckmaster setup, it'll blow your mind. So, it's just stuff like that you can teach somebody. I took Henry Bass, for example, his first year to Buckmasters and taught him how to build his setup, and he beat me the first year out. So, but for a guy to just jump into that, it's pretty tough to compete the first year or so. But 15 years, wow, I'll be old.
I'm trying to decide on a length of time that would be appropriate. I gotta go 15.
Well, I figure I can compete. I honestly figure I could compete really solid for another 15 years. I guess I have to decide whether I want to go senior pro or not. Ooh. My wife doesn't really want to be. She says she doesn't like the idea of her husband being the senior.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't, I feel really competitive. I'm shooting at the very best I've ever shot in my life. I don't see any reason to go senior, other than, I don't know. Maybe in some venues, some in not, but
what about
I got a lot of things. I would really like to shoot the whole European Pro Series one year. I love that venue. I love that format. I love the way the Europeans, really push the envelope and don't really cater to mediocrity. And I really like that event for that reason. So I got some bow hunts I want to do. I got to get up to Alaska, and if I could talk Bowtech into a sheep hunt, I could do the Grand Slam, I have one.
There you
go. So when are we going to see the Tim Gillingham Training Center?
Well, I don't know. I'm just, like I said, like you said, the time is the big kicker,
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 more tournaments, and then I'm off for the rest of the year. There's a lot of things that I want to do with my personal shooting, but primarily in mental training aspect. The nice thing about next year going forward, I think these Fanatic 3.0s figured out. I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes that I'll have to make, and I have a good understanding of them. So I'm really looking forward to next year. I think it'll be a really good year, and I think there's a ton of interest out there in the BT Mag and the Fanatic bows and the tournament scene. Just a lot of people, trying them and really liking them. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you could definitely get the attendance if you created the Tim Gillingham Training Center, make it a huge destination. I think, hands down, it would be, I would be there. I know Levi would probably be there. There's a lot of us that need mental help on our game. So.
It's just, it's just so hard to teach all these little intricate details, I mean, we can sell a Hamsky rest, but I need to show people the way I build it, because I think it's the most surgical, way of putting it together and making sure you never have an issue. Whether it's arrows, whether it's, how you tie a loop on, or how you tie a peep in, or, the way I use, say the Hamsky Insight peep, there's ways that there's things that I do to it to ensure that I never have a problem. And that's one thing I've learned over the years is being prepared for anything they can throw at you. If you're shooting a clarifier and it gets wet, do you take the lens out and clean it? How do you know where it goes back in straight? When you take your scope out, the equipment they're using, you've got to be able to be prepared for everything that happens. I've seen guys in tournaments take their scope out and shoot 3 5s in a row, and I'm thinking that's the biggest rookie move I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's just not really understanding your equipment. So there's a lot of things I think I can help people, learn. Right. I mean, I like Levi said, I change all the time, because, if something's not working, if I got a bow and I know what to expect out of a particular, shot, if something's not working, I'm going to switch it. And this weekend was a prime example. The first day at IBO World, I'm shooting very fast. I'm shooting 343 foot a second with an X cutter and a 90 grain point. And I had a couple arrows that, just missed the 11 ring, 1.8, and I thought, well, maybe I should just slow it down a bit, make things a shade more stable. And so I put 20 more grains of point weight in it. My experiences allow me to be able to do that confidently. I go over to the bags, I take a bare shaft, I retune my bow. 20 minutes later, I'm good to go. I pulled my bow out of the case when I got there, and the airlines had trashed my blade. So, some people would panic. I just grabbed my backup, which experience has taught me to bring my backup blade, put a new blade on it, bare shaft tuned it. So I retuned my bow twice this weekend. It only took me 20, 30 minutes with a bare shaft. So that says a lot for the Bowtech system too. It's a very extremely easy bow to tune. Just a lot of tuning aspects of the bow at hand, so it makes the job pretty easy.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. You're one of those pros that you won't shoot it unless you're behind it. You understand what it does for you. Coming from the different cam systems that you've shot over the years, what does the Overdrive binary cam system, what does it give you to get that leg up on the competition?
Well, and it was funny. One of our other shooters, Dave Stepp, kind of brought this up to me, and I just clarified it. I've always had problems with stretching, and he said, well, that's because all your loads on one cable, and it was just like ding, ding, ding. Well, that's one of the things that's great about a binary cam system is that you're splitting the load between the cables. That makes a very balanced system, but it also keeps the stuff from getting abused, and it keeps your cables from stretching. I like a good 452X string. I think it's important to have Vectrin in your string material to keep it from moving around in the temperature and things like that. I've tried a lot of stuff over the years, and it's cost me, time and stress and
headache,
all that. The binary cam system is just, this cam system on this Fanatic, I cannot overstate how smooth it is. I mean, it is just so easy to draw. Mm-hmm. And as far as the valley and the holding weight, you can manipulate that to do whatever you want. And we're working on some new stuff, I think, going forward, where we're able to fill in all those gaps in let off and holding weight that I think will make the system even that much better. So
right. Right.
Are you currently shooting in the comfort or the performance setting, or do you jump back and forth?
I have my hunting bow on the comfort. I'm sure it's a custom build on a BT mag for my draw length, so I'm not exactly sure what cam y'all put on it, but I use the performance. I just don't see much difference in them, so I might as well get a couple foot a second.
All right. So you're using the Overdrive. So Jeff S. had that question as well. So you're utilizing the Overdrive binary on your hunting bow as well as the Fanatic, correct?
Right. Well, and back on the cam too. My draw length's 33.5, so I have the bow long strung, and my cams are over rotated. So what people experience on their holding weight and stuff might not be what I experience. Right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I just tell guys to experiment with it. It's a neat feature, and I think it's smooth in both, in both setups. So yeah, it's a great cam system.
I got a quick comment that you'll probably like. This is from Erik Gilbert. This is on our website. I don't know if you know Erik or not, but he said he's had some conversations with your wife about shooting her own bow at competitions and her being the better shot than you.
Oh, I wish I could get my wife to shoot.
Good answer.
That's one of my goals for this winter is to get my wife to actually shoot. So yeah. I got a couple bows for her. And hopefully she'll go on a deer hunt with me this year too. So I got her a brand new Rain 7. So I would be flattered if my wife outshot me.
Yeah, I was gonna say sorry. I thought you said she did outshoot you, so that's why I said good answer. No, that's great. Well, I know, I appreciate you taking your time out of your day today. I know you're probably working there selling some arrows too. So Levi is our pro staff coordinator. I know he gets to work with you a lot, and myself as the brand manager position. I work with you a lot on the product and everything else. So do you have anything you want to add as we wrap up our Tim Gillingham project today?
Not really, but just thank you again for joining us. It's always a pleasure catching up with you, and the little quirky stories that I get in between. That always makes it definitely worth it.
Well, again, thanks for joining us, Tim. I hope you enjoyed the video. I think this was your first time seeing it in its entirety. So.
Well, I appreciate all the work that Bowtech has gone to kind of help promote me, and I really like working with a company that appreciates my input. So I think going forward, I think we can build some really super. It's already a phenomenal bow, and it's getting a lot of interest in the target world. Right. I just talked to Jimmy Butts this morning. He's got a new shop down in Mississippi or Louisiana, and he's starting to move bows. I just, people shoot it. It's a lot of times, shooters get, and hunters especially, they get, marketed to with a lot of false information, and they don't really know what to expect out of a bow. They expect the bow to tune. They expect the bow to do this and that, and that's not always the case. Right. One thing, when you do get a Bowtech hunting bow, you're going to get a bow that's easy to tune, that's simple to adjust, and very, very reliable in the field. So on top of the fact they're at the top of the food chain in speed too. So speed's not everything. You want a good, comfortable, drawing bow, and I just think it's a super company, and I'm really, proud to be working with them.
Well, we're proud of you, everything you're doing out there, especially, these great archers that have commented about you too. So again, thanks for joining us, Tim. Those of you that are new to this, again, new to the live, Bowtech Live, make sure you text WATCH to 313131. We have a lot of great live content we do all week long, from hunting to, cooking to target archery. We do target updates. So, and like Levi mentioned, we have a great antelope coming up. So hopefully we're able to come to you live with some great successes.
Successful spot and stock.
Yeah, these two guys are pretty darn good at it, so we should be able to get something to you. So again, thanks for joining us on Bowtech Live.